Hi, welcome to your online IELTS preparation course. My name is Susan and I'm going to be your tutor for the course. Okay, so what this course is about is it's going to build on your English skills and specifically focus on IELTS topics and give you exam techniques to help you achieve the maximum score in the IELTS exam. I know some of you will already have experience of IELTS. You may have already taken the exam and not got the score you needed, or you may have already researched into the exam. What this will do, we're going to build on your existing knowledge. We're going to give you useful vocabulary and improve your English skills. We're very confident that at the end of the course, when you go and take the IELTS exam, you will get the score that you need. For those of you that are new to IELTS, don't worry, again, it's going to give you all the information that you need. Throughout your lessons, you're going to be given a lot of information. Now, it is an online course, so it may seem very strange me talking to you and then being silent. What I need to do is I need to give you the opportunity to read the slides as well as listen to me and to make notes. It's going to be very difficult for you to revise if you don't make any notes. So a pen and paper are essential to have to hand every single lesson. Also, as I say, I really want you to make notes throughout the course, okay? All of this is information. Not only are we going to improve your English, but we're going to give you great exam techniques. So now I want you to have a look at the slide, and this is going to tell you what to expect from this course. Great. So the last thing what I have to say is that I hope you enjoy the course. It really is going to be a lot of information. But that's what you would have if you were studying in the classroom. The only difference is that you won't be able to speak to me directly. But I don't think there'll be any problems with this. Okay, so what you're going to study today is, as I've said before, an IELTS overview. I have to do this at the start of any IELTS course to give you an idea as to what the exam is about. I'll give you some nice tips on what you can do outside of the classroom, and then we're going to look at some global issues to get you thinking about popular IELTS topics. So let's start with our IELTS overview, as I said before. What is IELTS? Okay, the definition is it is the International English Language Testing System. Very fancy. Okay, what this is, it's a standardized test of English language proficiency. There's different band scales which you can get. You can take academic IELTS or general IELTS. The difference between those two is the writing and the reading with academic IELTS is more difficult. Is that it's as it sounds, it's more focused on academic vocabulary. If you're looking to take IELTS to go to university, it would be the academic IELTS that you would need to take. The IELTS exam will test your 4 skills, so these are your reading, writing, listening and speaking. Throughout the course, we're going to have a look at each of those 4 skills separately, and I'm going to give you some great exam techniques so you can put these to practice when you take the exam. We'll have a little overview of the listening. This will take approximately 40 minutes. 30 minutes is for the listening part and 10 minutes to transfer your answers. The listening is in 4 sections and there's 10 sections in each. The first 2 sections will be concerned with social needs. So this is more everyday conversations that you would hear. Whereas the final 2 sections are situations in an educational or a training context. So this is going to give you a lot more subject-specific vocabulary. Again, don't worry, this is a big overview. We're going to have a look at all of this a lot more in-depthly during the course. There's lots of different types of questions in the listening exam. Have a look at the slide. See if you can think of what those type of questions are. We have multiple choice, short answer questions, sentence completion. There's a notes, a chart and a table completion, labelling a diagram, classification and matching. I'm sure you know what some of those types of questions, what if you have those, what it is that you need to do. For those that you don't worry. As I say, we're going to have a look at everything a lot more specifically throughout the course. Reading. Okay, reading, that will be 1 hour long. Within that 1 hour, you are expected to read 3 long passages, and they are long, and these will be of increasing difficulty. The topics are of general interest, and they're usually taken from magazines, journals, books and newspapers, and there's a total of 40 questions to answer. With the reading, it's a really good idea to bring your vocabulary up to date of topical matters, so things that are in the news at the moment or things that have been in the news recently. The more you can do beforehand, the easier it will be, because that means if you sit down in the IELTS exam and you're given a reading topic which you wouldn't have thought about before, at least you've got the vocabulary to understand. Again, I've given you a list of different types of questions that you would possibly be asked, and again I'm going to look at these more in depthly during the course and give you some good exam techniques on approaching each different type of question. So I just want you to have a look at the different types now. Writing. Again, your writing will be 1 hour long. With the writing, you'll be asked to do 2 different tasks. We call these task 1 and task 2, or part 1 and part 2. Task 1, you're expected to spend around 20 minutes of the 1 hour, and for task 2, around 40 minutes. This is because the assessment for your task 2 will carry a lot more weight than task 1. So it's important you do well on both of them, but it's really important you do well on task 2. With task 2, that's the longer essay style of writing. So, the question types. With task 1, you will be asked to look at a diagram, and you will need to present the information that you see in the diagram in your own words. So that's the data from the diagram. You need to be able to interpret that and then present that information. With task 2, this is your essay. So you will be given a statement or a question which you have to answer. This is usually going to be an argument or a problem. Again, like with the reading, if you start thinking about topical issues, which we're going to do later on today, it's going to help you with the vocabulary you will need for this part. But once again, we'll look at both of them later on in the course. And the last skill you will be tested on is your speaking. Approximately 11 to 14 minutes for this part, depending on the questions you're asked and the answer that you give. There's 3 main parts. We call them part 1, part 2, part 3. Nice and easy to remember. And the speaking, it's an oral interview between yourself and the examiner. There will not be anybody else there. The examiner will ask you questions and give you instructions, and they will also be the person assessing your answers. With speaking, as well as being able to use a wide range of vocabulary, it's important to show your willingness to communicate. For part 1, you're going to be asked general questions about yourself, maybe your family, your job, your studies, your interests, and other familiar topic areas. This is the part that students most like. It's going to be questions that you've probably been asked a million times before. You just need to prepare very good answers. Part 2 is called our individual or long-term or monologue. And what this is, you'll be given a task card, so you'll be given a topic on which you have to talk about for 1 to 2 minutes. You will be given 1 minute before to plan this. And part 3 is going to be questions again, and these will be related to the topic in part 2. The difference between part 1 and part 3 is your questions will be a lot more general. They will not be about you. And the structure of the questions will be a lot more complex. So the language that you need to be listening and thinking about in part 3 will be a lot more difficult than in part 1. So I just want to remind you one more time that throughout the course we're going to have a look at each part individually. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, if that was a bit too much information in too short a time, don't worry too much. This is just an overview. I'm going to look at the other details and how you can approach each part later on in the course. How IELTS is assessed. It's important that you understand what the examiners will be assessing you on. And then on the next slide, you're going to have a look at the band scores and what you need to be achieving to get the score. By looking at this information, it's going to help you to think about what it is that you should be doing. So it uses a band score from 1 to 9, so 9 is the best, 1 is the worst. And each band score will show you what your level of English is. For the writing and speaking, the examiner will have a checklist of things that you should be able to do and language that you should be able to use. For the reading and listening, it will be on the number of questions that you answer correctly. Your result is an average of your score. So sometimes your stronger areas can help your weaker areas, but ideally you want to have a good score in all areas. Let's have a look at the band scores now. Okay, you can see number 9, that's our expert user, so that's the best. Number 1 is our non-user, so this means you can only use a few isolated words. You want to be looking between 6 and 8 if you're looking to get your IELTS to go to university. We can also have 0.5 scores. So you can have a 6.5 or a 7.5, and this means you're in between those two. Read through the IELTS band score, look at the score that you should be getting, and look at what it is that you need to be doing with your English to get that score.